Welcome to Keep the Game Beautiful podcast. Each week, I highlight incredible people who are doing amazing things in soccer, the beautiful game. I'm Anna Turi, your host. Thank you for listening. I originally met today's guest, Jen Brooks, in a mentor group that none other than Molly Grisham set up. When Jen was talking, she gave some amazing points and she has some amazing experience as well. I was really excited to have her on to share some of that experience on my podcast to help get her story out to more. Of course, she also hosts her own podcast, which I would suggest you check out, called Time Out with Jen Brooks. She talks about her experience as a female athletic director, which is definitely not easy. But with the podcast, she can help get her point across and help share her stories and experiences to other women athletic directors and to men athletic directors that may not realize how hard it actually is. One other thing that I really want to point out is Jen talks about the Breakthrough Summit, which is December 14th and December 15th. It is a great opportunity for women in leadership roles and women all across all sports. It is free and digital. So if you have the time tomorrow, December 14th, I definitely suggest you check it out. Today's guest is Jen Brooks. I originally met Jen at a Molly Grisham leadership experience. Jen is not actually related to soccer, but she has a great insight on women representation. Jen is the founder of the Global Community of Women in High School Sports. She is the athletic director at Ursuline Academy and hosts a podcast called Time Out with Jen Brooks. So Jen, I'm wondering if you'd like to add anything else or talk about what got you to where you are today.
Well, I do want to start off by saying I did play soccer back in the day. I played soccer in high school and in college. So I do love me some soccer. So I've been at Ursuline for 27 years. I've been the athletic director for 25. And then just in the last couple of years, I created the Global Community of Women in High School Sports. You know, I'm sure you're totally aware that, you know, being a woman in the sports industry, you're a minority. It's a male-dominated industry. It's a male-dominated world. And so especially in high school sports, there's very few women. So I felt the need to connect and network and mentor women so that we can provide more opportunities for more women to become involved in high school sports. So that's my passion these days, is women in sports.
So on this podcast, I always start with the same 3 questions. First, what does the beautiful game mean to you?
I love competing. I love the teamwork that's involved in that competition. I love how at the end of it, I feel amazing mentally and physically, even if that means a little sore. That sore is usually a good sore. And I love how it brings people together.
What are actions or things you do to keep the game beautiful?
I would say specifically for me, because I'm a high school athletic director, it's making sure I hire quality coaches, and it is making sure that the culture I create at my school is one that is positive. It's one that is encouraging. It's one that is character-based. That's way more important than winning a game, I think.
How do you encourage others to keep the game beautiful?
I think it's by challenging them, and having conversations and being in constant communication and asking questions like, why did you do that? Or why do you think that? Or have you thought about this? And then in turn, being open to being questioned about what I do and having, my athletes say, would you consider this? Or why don't you do that? And I have to absolutely be open to those conversations and be willing to change.
So starting off, I really want to ask you about being the only woman in the room, because when we talked at the Molly Grisham experience, you had some great insight on that. So can you just go ahead and tell us about some of the experiences you've been in when you're the only woman in the room?
Sure. So There have been times, well, most times, I walk into a room and I am the only woman in the room, and that can be daunting, and it can be intimidating. But I've chosen to no longer let that scare me or intimidate me. I know that I'm the voice there for all of the women who can't be in the room. And so I know I take that with a lot of importance. There are often times where I've gone to conferences, and we've gone to the exhibit hall, and I bring my husband along, and my husband will walk there with me, and his name tag says, Don Brooks, visitor, and mine says Jen Brooks, athletic director, and all the exhibitors go immediately to my husband. They assume he is the athletic director. And that's not the case. There's often times where male officials want to mansplain the rules to me, or they walk into the gym and they said, where's the athletic director? I don't fit their narrative. I don't look like what they think a female or an athletic director looks like because I'm female. So I'm working really hard these days to change that narrative. Let's reimagine, let's redefine what women in sports look like, what a coach looks like, what a high school athletic director looks like. Let's redefine that.
Going off of the mansplaining, how do you react to the mansplaining? How can you kind of hold your ground?
You have to have the courage to find your voice, and you look that man right in the eyes and you say, thank you very much. I've been doing this for 27 years now. I'm very acquainted with the rules. If there's anything else I can do for you, let me know. And then you just turn around and you walk away. That would be how I tell you handle it.
So you talked about changing the narrative and how you've been in this for a long time. And you probably started changing the narrative many years ago. How have you seen the gradual improvement?
Gosh, and I will say it's gradual. It is so slow. But I am having more conversations with more of my male peers, and that's good. And I'm hearing them say, you are changing my outlook on things. I didn't realize that. I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know that. That is moving forward. That's progress, because now I've got these men who understand, who I now call allies and friends, definitely, but allies who are now helping to spread the word. So before, it felt like it was just me. And then I kind of got my posse of women. And now we've got some men who are helping us spread the word and educate. It's all about education. It's all about creating awareness. And the more people that we can have involved in creating awareness, we're on the right path.
How have you worked to create awareness for young women like me?
Putting myself out there every chance I get, saying yes to every invitation to speak, to teach, to talk. I have to say yes to. I also have to make sure that I'm modeling in my daily life, in my school life, what a female athletic director looks like. And that means being authentic. It means, being proud. It means being courageous enough to say, you know what? I made a mistake. Let's look at this and see how we can do things better. It means some days I show up in heels and jewelry, and some days I show up in my sweatpants. It means you get the real Jen no matter what.
You've already mentioned courage so many times. How have you seen your courage build up throughout the years?
I will say that if I'm, reflecting upon myself, I would say it took me a really long time to find the courage to find my voice. I was angry. I was frustrated. I was not happy with how the system was working against me. But I was struggling to find that courage because it was hard. It's hard to sit in those rooms full of these men. I mean, seriously, one woman and 30 guys. And it's really hard to, like, excuse me, I have, they want to talk over me. They don't want to let me talk. And finally, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I can't tell you there was a specific moment, but I just finally got to the point where I was like, I'm not taking this anymore. And I'm going to say my piece. And I don't know if it was because I think partly because they've respected the job I've done over the years. And so now I find that it's important for me to help other women, young girls, find their courage And so to do that, it's important that when I'm in a room with all of these men, and now maybe let's say that there's a few other women in the room, it's important for me after I say my piece to say, okay, Anna, what do you think? What are your thoughts? I have to open that door for you.
You also mentioned saying yes to every opportunity, but there's also times and scenarios where you need to say no. How can you be brave enough to say no, especially to men?
Yes. So recently, I'm part of the national teaching faculty for the athletic director classes, and these classes are antiquated, I think, and many of the graphics are a bunch of men on their on all their graphics and their books and their textbooks and stuff. And I've taught a couple classes this past fall, and it was very stressful for me because I was frustrated and didn't like the material. It was antiquated. I didn't like all this male talk, all these male pictures. And I thought, okay, I know that teaching is a good thing, and I know I can have a positive influence. However, this is causing me too much grief. It's causing me too much frustration. I think I can better use my efforts in other areas that will also have an impact as well. And so knowing what works and what doesn't work for you, having the courage, going back to having the courage to say, no, this isn't right for me, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to still make an impact or I'm not going to do things. I'm just going to find the path or the vehicle that does work better for me to get my thoughts and impact across.
How can you find where you're best fit or where it's best to get your voice across?
You have to just put yourself out there, and there's going to be times where you say, yep, that didn't work. And there's going to be times that says, oh, this is in my wheelhouse. I like this. This feels good. And that's what you have to embrace and be willing to know that there's going to be things that aren't going to feel good and be good and do good. And that's okay. And being opening to critique, hey, Anna, is this working for you? Did this work? Or, having those conversations that says, yeah, Jen, you know what, that wasn't your best, but I do like when you do this. And for me to hear that and go, okay, that's fair. Let's put all my energies now on what I am good at.
So being open to critique and also giving critique. Sometimes women are scared that they're coming across too mean. How can we get across our point but not be too quote unquote mean?
I think you do it by being empathetic and sympathetic and not bossy. You go at it just as it's a communication piece. It's just, hey, Anna, have you ever thought about doing this? Or, what are your thoughts about this? Posing it that way as to say, Anna, when you do this, it's really a problem. I could say the exact same thing and it sounds so different both ways, so it's having that conversation. It's all about a conversation and not me pointing my finger and saying, you. It's, hey, let's talk about this. And by the way, how can I help you? That's huge.
And also in receiving critique too, because I've had my struggles receiving critique and I kind of take it the wrong way sometimes. How have you worked over the years to develop and take this critique as constructive criticism?
We're humans. And so, of course, when someone says they don't like what you do, they don't like what you said, they don't like how you look, let's be honest, it's going to hurt. It's a matter of, do you let that hurt overtake you? Or do you say, okay, that's fair. That's an interesting perspective. And move forward and learn from that. I always find I always love talking to people and hearing their perspective, especially people that are different from me. I would say, flip the coin. I love the other side of the story, the other side of the coin. I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to like it. I do have to hear it. And then I have to make that conscious decision to say, okay, I've heard it. And they do have some good points that I think I'm going to put into my life, or, that's fair. They can think that they don't have all the pieces to the puzzle, and I will let them either, I'll either try to give them the other pieces or realize it's not worth even giving them the pieces. And I'll thank them for their time and walk away. Again, that's not always easy. We're human. It does hurt. I will, I always say that my armor has gotten stronger, over the last 27 years, but, there's still pieces of that armor that knife will slip through and go, oof, that hurt.
So I want to ask you a little bit about the role of an athletic director now. So what are the main things you do and what might a day look like?
So I think the most important thing I do is that I create the culture for my athletic department. Okay. And so that's a lot of work, and educating the coaches and the athletes and the players about this is the standard I want our athletic program to live by. So that's a big piece of the puzzle. Then you get into the minutia of schedules. I have over 40 coaches and most of them aren't on campus, so it's okay. How do I communicate with 40 coaches who are at 40 different places on every given day? It's dealing with the needs of the student athletes, which vary day to day and vary person by person. And it's also meeting the needs of our parents and what they need. And so, you know, um, maybe it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a ton of work. Every day is different. I do like that. I do like that I have time behind my desk, and I do like that I have time in the gym and on the fields. I like that change of pace. I always come in thinking, okay, here's what I'm gonna get done today. And I usually don't get those things done because that's just life. As an athletic director, you get curveballs left and right. But I do find that that's, as much as that's hard, that's part of the fun part of the job. It's very unpredictable.
When hiring coaches, what do you look for?
I look for someone who's passionate about empowering and inspiring and teaching young women. I look for a good teacher. Really, that's what a coach is a teacher. So that's important to me. I do not like, nor would I hire or want to hire someone who's a screamer. That's just girls don't listen to that. It doesn't work for girls. So I look for someone who's passionate about making an impact on young people's lives through them teaching about sports. And I'll tell you what, that's getting harder and harder to find every day. Coaching is a hard job. It's little pay, a lot of criticism. And so we're finding, as athletic directors, that pool of coaches is becoming very hard to find.
I'm hoping that we have some new coaches listening in. How can we support the new coaches in interviews or trying to get a job?
Well, call me, join the global community of women in high school sports. I am absolutely here to help you, network you, connect you, mentor you. It's important that we're communicating with these young people, these young coaches, my assistant coaches. It's important that we are inviting and encouraging all young women to coach. Often I say to the young ladies here, I say, I hope you come back and coach one day. And I mean that. And I think that invitation is so important. I mean, Anna, if someone went to you and said, Anna, I want you to come coach for me, doesn't that is more impactful than anything, I think. And I think often young women don't even think about the opportunity to coach because most of them have never been coached by a woman. So in their minds, they can't be it because they can't see it. So we have to say, okay, Anna, you may never have had a woman coach in your life, but that doesn't mean you can't be it. And I'm going to help you be it. And so it's providing professional development. It's providing learning opportunities. It's, taking time to say, Anna, what do you need? I want to help you.
Yeah, I have never actually had a woman coach, but I'm very thankful for the platform I'm in because I've seen so many other amazing women doing amazing things. And then going off of the global community of women in high school sports, can you talk more about that? I know you talked at the beginning, but can you go more in depth into what the community is?
Sure. So a few years ago, I reached out to the national organizations that house high school athletics. And I asked if they would create a space in these organizations for women athletic directors. And they said no. Of course, they said no. They were men. They didn't see a need for it. Okay. And that's fine. That's fair. But the personality that I have was like, okay, that's fine. You can tell me no. I'm just going to create my own thing right now. And so I did. But it was very grassroots. It's just me. I have a full-time job as an athletic director. So to add the global community and with no money was a challenge. And so it kind of sat there for a bit. And then all the stars aligned actually this time a year ago. And we had our national ADs conference in Maryland, and a handful of things happened And I will applaud We Coach and Huddle for kind of putting those things into place for us. But as women, I was able to get the sail that the ship of the global community needed to start heading out to sea. And we got that at the national conference last Maryland, last winter in Maryland. And we walked around with sheets of paper. My daughter was there with me, and every woman we saw, we said, hey, you want to be part of the global community? Sign this piece of paper. And they would sign their name and their email. And that's what it was. And so we left that conference really excited, made some new amazing female friends, connected, had a list of over 100 women athletic directors. So I get back kind of thinking, okay, how are we going to make this work? How are we going to put it into play? And then COVID hits. Okay. My motto, and thanks to Molly Grisham, is, this is good. So if I'm looking for good in COVID, I'm going to tell you that COVID helped create the global community of women in high school sports, because we found Zoom through COVID. And this global community, these women athletic directors all over the country were now able to connect on a weekly basis, face to face over a computer screen, and talk about what we were living and figure out how we were going to deal with this COVID thing. And that was amazing and energizing and reassuring. And so that list that when we left Maryland, we had about 100 or so on that list. We're now over 800 women strong, or 800 men and women strong, because it's important. This is a group for men as well. We need male allies. We need men to hear us, see us. So we're a very inclusive group. And so now we meet once a month. It's a Zoom call. It's open to everybody. We offer a mentoring program. We offer book clubs. It's open for coaches, aspiring coaches. It's open to athletic directors, aspiring athletic directors. We do clinics. We, do conferences. We're doing a happy hour this coming Tuesday night online. We're doing our first ever virtual happy hour because we're going to celebrate. There's lots to celebrate. It's been a really hard year, no doubt about it. But we're going to celebrate the success of women in sports. We're going to celebrate us. And so that's kind of where we are. And we are pushing forward full steam ahead. And I can't tell you how excited I am about it.
How can people support or get involved with this community?
Yeah, so we have a website, globalcommunityofwomeninsports.com. Check it out. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and become a member of our community. And come to our stuff. We offer a lot of free things. This is, if you're looking to network, if you're thinking that this is something I might want to do, I might want to be a coach, I might want to be an athletic director, this is a safe place to check it out.
So I want to go back to the Molly Grisham experience. When we were talking, you had said something that we need to take the word just out of our vocabulary. Could you talk more about that?
Yes. So I have to credit that to Betsy Butterick last year at the Breakthrough Summit, which if you get a chance, the Breakthrough Summit is this Monday and Tuesday, December 14th and 15th. It's a free digital workshop. Absolutely attend. And I encourage everyone to attend. But Betsy Butterick spoke last year at the Breakthrough Summit, and she said this: take the word just out of your vocabulary. So think about this. Think of the Nike slogan, just do it. Okay. Now take the word just out and say, do it. It has so much more power. Just checking in. Take the word just out. Checking in. How are you doing? It sounds so much more powerful, so much more impactful. There's going to be times where you're going to say, yes, I just went to the store. So you're not going to completely take it out of your vocabulary, but take that word out. So above my office door, it says, just try your best. And we scratched out just, and now I look at it and it says, try your best. That's powerful to me. Just try your best. Just try your best. No, try your best.
How important is your vocabulary, especially when talking in a room full of men?
Huge. I'm so glad you said that. We have to be so aware of words. Words are so important. It drives me mad when when I'm on an email chain and the email starts off gentlemen, or if I'm sitting in a room or in a Zoom and the people keep saying, hey guys, what do you think? Or even if my coaches talk to my team, which are all girls, because I work at an all girls school, and say, okay, guys, what do you think? And I'll go, wait. I don't know what the guys think because there aren't any guys in here, but the women in the room or the ladies in the room think this. So I think that's important. We would never look at a bunch of men and say, hey, gals, what do you think? So why do we think it's okay to take a bunch of women and say, hey, guys, what do you think? And call them guys. So let's be aware of our words. And when we talk about, when a man is aggressive, a woman is bossy, and we can go back and forth and all those things, and those, just aren't fair and right and true and accurate. So I would just beg people to please be aware of your words.
So moving on a little bit, I want to ask you about your podcast. How did you develop your podcast?
So another thing that I do is I'm the mentor coordinator for the state of Missouri. So that means I work with all the new athletic directors in the state of Missouri, mentor them, help them understand what life is like and what the expectations are for an athletic director. And I thought, okay, if I created this podcast, it's another avenue for me to reach them. It's another avenue for me to teach them, when they're they can put their headphones in when they're sweeping the gym floor or lining the field or driving home, and maybe get 15, 20, 30 minutes of a conversation that I'm having with a veteran athletic director or someone in the athletic field who can impart some wisdom. That's all I was hoping to do, was to take a quick time out and listen and learn.
So talking about being a mentor, how have you been a mentor and almost used the guidelines of your mentors to mentor others?
Sure. So, I'm the oldest of 7 kids. So I feel like, I've always mentored my whole life. And for me, the real importance when I realized that I have to find space for more women. I have to help the next woman that sits in the chair after me have a much easier route and path to doing it than I ever had. And the way to do that was for me to get involved and mentor and help them. And, it's taking, the words of, Debbie Watson and Lonnie Folks, who had huge impacts on my life, and hearing what they said and remembering how they treated me and how they took time out for me, and for me making that and putting that into my place in my life for the people that are around me now as well.
So I want to ask you a little bit about managing referees. I personally referee, and I haven't seen many other women referees. How often do you see a woman referee, or how often does a woman referee come to your school?
Not often. There is a huge crisis with officials. We're losing officials every day, which I don't blame them. They get yelled at all the time. They're never right, so who likes that kind of job? Yeah, so very rarely do we have female officials, and that's a bummer. And we've got to work on that. We've got to, again, it goes to the ask. It goes, okay, Anna, so that's fine if you don't want to coach, but hey, would you ever consider refereeing or officiating? And again, that asking and providing opportunities, so, you're officiating right now, where we know that these young people are officiating CYC or middle school games. Hey, you want to come practice at my varsity basketball team's practice or my varsity soccer games practice, offering opportunities to learn. And then just having that, then after the game's over with, the practice is over with, me taking time to sit next to him and say, okay, here's what I thought. You did really good with this. I would say work on this better the next time, and making that important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, I wanted to ask more about if you have a poor official, how do you kind of talk to them and still being polite?
So it really isn't my place, during the game as the athletic director to say anything. I definitely impart it upon my coaches that I don't want them yelling and screaming at the officials. That, to me, that's not acceptable. They can politely ask for an explanation of the call. I think that's fine and fair. We have a system, in Missouri where, the coaches can rate the officials afterwards. I have never seen an official just do so poorly that I felt the need to say something in the moment. But I would certainly get involved if I thought things were about to get out of hand, and doing it to help and not, to, be the person in charge, but just to say, okay, this situation's getting out of hand. I got to step in before it gets too bad.
So you talk about not wanting your coaches to be screamers or yellers. If a coach is kind of heated and worked up, how can you kind of help them calm down and take a breath?
I'll probably like make a joke, and trying to get them to like, okay, breathe a little, okay, yeah, you're right. In the realm of the world, it wasn't that big of a deal. And then look, okay, let's talk about what you're mad about. Okay, well, is it fixable? Yeah, probably is. Or when can we fix it? Later? Yeah, so we'll address it later. Let's focus on the right now in the moment. We'll deal with that later.
So I think we've made it to our final question. This is a little bit of a shorter episode, but I think it's great to keep it short and sweet, just something quick. So our final question I ask every guest: what do you hope people remember about your impact to soccer and the world?
I hope they remember that I tried really hard to make the path for other women a little bit easier. It's that simple.
Great. Thank you so much for your time today.
Anna, thank you. You're doing great stuff. Keep up the good work. And if you ever want to coach or officiate, you call me. I got you.
Okay. One huge takeaway from today is that vocabulary matters. It's so important and valuable. She talks about using words like just and how it almost takes away from sounding confident. We're using those words just kind of make a woman and anyone in general sound less confident. And as a woman in the game, it is so important that you come across confident. Another huge thing is making assumptions. Jen talks about how at events, everyone always assumes that her husband was the athletic director. And it's so important that we can break that stereotype. Jen is doing amazing work right now to try and break that stereotype, but she's still not quite there yet. But I'm excited to see where she goes in the future. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and until next time, remember to keep the game beautiful.